Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another sponsored video, which is very exciting. Letbricks decided to sponsor yet another video and send me something of theirs. And while I was already interested because, well, the last thing they sent me, the Viking ship, was really good, when I went to check their website to check, see what do I want, what would I want, for them to send me, I saw something really, really cool. That they had added a new category since the last time I'd looked, which is modern military, which I very much like. I could use a lot of modern military vehicles, just, not at such a crazy price. I'm not sure if they'd like me mentioning other places, but I do know one place that has military vehicles, and everything there is ridiculously expensive, like just ridiculously so. I won't mention them by name because I don't want to muddy the video too much, because it's about Letbrick, and Letbricks, the best way to explain it is that this is supposed to be a Hummer-like armored vehicle with a mounted gun. The same vehicle, honestly this one looks better than the one I found on the other person's website, is a third the cost. No, that's not an exaggeration. It is legitimately insane how expensive like a tiny amount of Lego bricks is over on the other site. Letbrick has significantly cheaper alternatives, and if their Viking ship quality holds true, then this may just be how I'm going to get my hands on military vehicles for future use. Because there's just not a chance I'm going to be able to ever afford the military vehicles being sold made out of official Lego. It's just too pricey, it really is. So that's enough talking about this. I just wanted to point it out, talk about how I really like the price. I like that this is a military themed thing that I could get a lot of use out of. And that, like I should say, this is a sponsored video, so this is sent to me for free. Just to make that clear, like I said before, like I've said in the other two sponsored videos I do, I don't let that cloud my judgment. I don't let that make, I don't want to hold any punches just because they sent me something for free. I'm going to give you my honest opinion when it's done. So yeah, I'm just gonna, right from here, we'll just do the speed build and we'll get back to you when it's done. words. So I originally recorded this video, or at least like I originally recorded the part where I talked about this build a few days ago, and I decided I didn't really like how it came out, so I waited a little bit just to get some extra time in so that I could come and do this again, because it was just kind of rambling, and I really wanted some time to think about this, because there was really no way of getting around this, because I need to talk about this. Like, let's just begin by saying that this build already has more design flaws than the Viking boat, such as this. This is supposed to go together somehow and not fall apart and attach to this stud right there. But because it is built the way it is, it can't do that. I could stick half of it on here, like so. But then if I try to get this on there, it will fall right off. Actually, maybe not. It was doing it earlier, but I guess it actually does hold its shape, which is okay. So it actually does. I'll take the L on that one. I actually couldn't get the stick before. This is the first time, but as they say, it's always when you're explaining something is being broken, that's when it actually fixes itself. But it's already coming off. Never mind. Look at that. And this is kind of what I'm talking about, or what I'm going to mention when I'm talking about this. Is that this build is clearly not meant for anything other than to be a model that sits on a shelf, which is not an issue, because that's just how some models are. You might notice this door is also falling apart, which is great. Yeah, they made the door swivel, but I guess I could now, but you can't really open it with this piece being the way it kind of is. It kind of, it kind of blocks, the window kind of blocks it a little bit, so you kind of have to move things around, and hopefully it doesn't break again. Ooh. And that's kind of my thing. This build is very, very delicate, and some of the connections made are a little bit odd. And I guess it was for extra details, but for some of them it's just a little bit questionable. And I mean, I'm sounding negative, but it's because I prefer builds that are actually usable, that are actually like play sets that you could have like play features with. And this, if you gave this to a kid, it would fall apart in about a second, because, well, it's just meant for a different audience. It's not meant for children, it's meant for adults. It's meant for an adult who is going to be delicate and, pose this and put it on a shelf and leave it there. So if that's what you're looking for, this is great. But if you wanted, like I said, like an actual, like a play feature, like a toy that you could play with, it's not the greatest. There are a lot of little things you could fix. In fact, I scouted a lot of them while I was building it myself. And I don't want to sound negative, because this model is very detailed. It's very cool. It's just that it doesn't really hit the mark for what I prefer in a Lego set. It's just not for me, which is more what I'm trying to get at here. This isn't a bad model. It's a great looking model. This attaches fine, I guess. It's not the worst. As these pieces, which normally go under the wheel, but they fell out, and I can't really get them back in without, taking the wheel off, I guess. That's really what it comes down to. It's not that this build has been made of poor pieces, and that it's these pieces aren't well made, and so it's not very, whatever. These pieces are very well made. We figured that out from the Viking set, that these pieces hold their shape very well. Is that there's really a lot of 1 or 2 stud connections connecting massive parts of this vehicle, which makes it very, very delicate, not because of the pieces or their quality, but because of just the general build itself. So that's my sentiment. It's a beautiful model. It's just clearly meant to be a cool model that sits on your shelf. It's that's pretty neat. If you wanted an actual, say, something to do stop motion animations or just to have kids play with, this is not a great choice, because it will very easily fall apart. I'm just gonna come out and say that. So yeah, this is clearly an adult collector's type thing, which is fine. I sound negative, like I said, just because I prefer things that have more play features rather than just models that sit on shelves. But that's not a takeaway from this. If that's what you prefer, then go right ahead and get this thing right here. But if you're like me and you want something that actually has play features, at the very least, I could say that this gave me some ideas on how to build my own in the future, which is kind of how I do things. I build it, I'm like, oh, I don't really like how this was made. They could have done this change and this change and these changes here. And then I just go off and do it on my own. But I'm working on dinosaurs right now, not military vehicles. But yeah, so I like this. I think it's great for collectors. I think it's great for people who want a cool model to sit on their shelf, or for people who want something to give to their kids, to have, a toy to play with. This is not it, Chief. I'm just going to be real with you. There are actually a number of edits you could make yourself with real Lego that could easily fix a lot of problems, mainly with this top turret bit, which, as you can see, is already like super loose, and I could pretty much like slide it off if it wasn't for the gun turret. Yeah, so at the end of the day, this is a great piece for collectors, not so much for people who want something, to play with or whatever. Beautiful, the pieces are well made. The structure is a little bit questionable if, again, you're looking to do something other than put it on a shelf. But beyond that, I'd say it's pretty good. That's kind of my whole thing, is like I'm trying to be as positive as I can, because it's like the pieces are well made. They stick together incredibly well. But this model is clearly not meant for any sort of anything beyond, like I said, just, you put some Lego figures in it, you set it down, and then it just sits there. And I guess that's fine for some people, but personally, I prefer something different. So I'm not trying to let my personal preferences cloud my judgment. I'm trying to think of this from the collector's perspective, and I'm sure that if any collector got something that looked this nice, they'd be ecstatic. And that's kind of my whole thing about this build. So at the end of the day, I can't really give this a true rating because it just goes against what I personally like. So I'm just going to give it a tentative thumbs up, because I just am not that type of person that this was made for at the end of the day. So yeah, it's good, but it's not for me.